Hours earlier, the rain had seeped into her footwear. Now, each footfall produced a quiet, frigid squelch that seemed to resonate more profoundly in her head than the sound of vehicles swishing by on the waterlogged road. It was the peak of the evening commute. Pedestrians hurried past, their umbrellas angled downwards, their boots splashing heedlessly through puddles. Nobody paused. Nobody so much as glanced her way. She was merely a small child, no older than 7, huddled at the bus shelter on 5th and Layton, a location far too bustling for anyone to take notice. What was not their problem? Her name was Maya. Her small arms were wrapped firmly around a folded blanket, its edges saturated with water. Tucked inside, her baby brother Noah, a mere 4 months of age, whimpered with feeble objection. His cries had gone unheard for a great while. His lips were colorless, his hands frigid. The meager blanket offered little protection from the biting cold. Maya drew him closer. The heavy backpack on her shoulders drooped with the load of bottles, diapers, and the remaining formula she had been able to grab that morning. Her cheeks were damp with what could have been rain, tears, or a mixture of both. It was hard to distinguish now. Her teeth began to chatter, yet she made no sound. She simply waited. People continued to pass. A few cast a look, some scowled, others gave her a wider berth. A handful murmured to their walking companions, but not one person stopped. Not one person inquired. Maya carefully repositioned Noah's head, her little fingers shaking from the cold. He emitted a faint sob, and she began to rock him in the same manner she had observed her mother do. Before the world had shifted, before the quiet descended, before the hospital, before the day her entire existence fractured and no one arrived to mend the fragments. Inside her pocket, Maya held a wrinkled piece of paper. The rain had caused the ink to run, but she had committed the address to memory regardless. It was the only thing she possessed. It pointed to the one location she could recall feeling secure. A little yellow house with flaking paint and a windshield that would sing whenever a breeze blew. Her mother had resided there. Maya had, too, until 4 months prior. That memory now felt as distant as a dream. Her mother had passed away on the day Noah was born. The medical staff explained that complications had arisen. That single word, complications, was the final coherent thing Maya heard before her life was upended. 1 minute, she possessed a mother, a home, and a predictable life. The next, she held her infant brother while adults conversed in hushed tones down the hall. They informed her she would be living with relatives, but the cousin to whom she was sent barely knew her name. His apartment was cramped and carried a persistent smell of smoke. His girlfriend had no fondness for babies, and Maya soon learned to be silent, to avoid asking for anything, and to act as if she were invisible. That morning, while they were still in bed, she had gathered Noah's belongings, bundled him as warmly as she was able, and slipped out. No one witnessed her departure. No one tried to stop her. She journeyed for hours along streets she did not recognize, keeping track of the turns she recalled from months before. When she at last saw the house, her heart pounded so intensely it was painful. She mounted the 3 weathered steps and knocked. But for a second, prior to the door opening, Maya paused, simply observing. The yellow paint, though faded, was the same. The wind chime was absent, but she could still hear its melody in her mind. She recalled pancakes on Sunday mornings, her mother's laugh, and the comforting scent of lavender. For the most fleeting of moments, it was as if she was back there, living that life again, complete and cherished. She gazed down at Noah in her arms, kissed his forehead tenderly, and spoke in a whisper. "We're here, Noah," she murmured, her voice breaking. "We found our way home." Then, the door creaked ajar. A man in his 40s peered out, his expression confused by the sight of 2 drenched children on his porch. "Can I help you?" he inquired warily. "I used to live here," Maya stated softly. He glanced back into the house before looking at her again. "I don't know anything about that, kid. I purchased this property from the bank several weeks ago. They mentioned the former owner had died and the house was sold to cover some mortgage debt." He shifted his weight, looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, I truly am. But this isn't your home any longer." Then, he gently shut the door. Maya remained motionless on the porch, the paper still in her fist. An empty sensation spread through her chest. Her sanctuary had vanished. It felt as though the ground had crumbled beneath her. Why did everything have to be so cruel to her, to Noah? She felt an urge to scream, to surrender, to allow the rain to carry her away. But she could not. Not while holding Noah. So she embraced him more tightly and allowed the tears to flow, weeping not from the cold, but from the silent, desperate pain of a little girl with no place left to turn. Maya did not move for a considerable time. She stayed on the porch, her arms tightening around Noah as if to shield him from the new reality she understood. The only place that had ever felt like home was no longer theirs. Her legs started to throb, but she remained. The wind intensified, whipping her wet hair across her face. The rain had become cold and persistent, drumming against her skin like countless quiet reminders that this was real. She eventually took a step back, her saturated sneakers making a slapping sound on the wood as she walked down the stairs. Every step felt weightier than the one before. Her breathing was short and ragged. Her fingers gripped Noah's blanket, as if it were her sole connection to the world. People walked by on the pavement across the road. Cars sped past, their tires cutting through the puddles. No one paid any mind to the small girl with a baby in her arms, moving slowly away from the house she had once known. Maya had no idea where she was headed. She simply continued to move. She followed the same route she had taken that morning, but it all appeared different now. More frigid, more somber, more forlorn. Noah shifted in her arms, letting out a soft whimper. She halted, rearranged his blanket, and kissed his forehead. He was trembling. There was no going back. And now, there seemed to be no path forward. After another 30 minutes of aimless wandering, she arrived at a recognizable intersection, 5th and Layton, a bus shelter, a bench. Too weary to proceed, she sat, and this time she did not suppress her tears. She allowed herself to weep because one door had closed and another had not opened. The rain continued its descent. Maya sat hunched on the cold bench, one arm cradling Noah, the other held tightly around herself. Her damp clothes stuck to her slight frame. The baby had finally ceased his crying, succumbing to sheer exhaustion. He was asleep, his head on her chest, his breathing faint but regular. Maya stared blankly at the pavement, her eyes unfocused. She was out of tears. It was then that she heard it. Not the sound of footsteps or voices, but a rhythmic tapping, gentle yet clear, like claws on the wet ground. Then, quiet. She looked up, taken aback. A few feet away stood a big German shepherd, soaked by the downpour. His coat was drenched, but appeared surprisingly clean. His dark eyes were keen yet kind. He cocked his head slightly, as if attempting to comprehend her situation. Maya froze. The dog stayed put. He simply stood there, observing her. Not with aggression, not with apprehension, but with something else entirely. A profound presence. She held Noah a bit tighter, feeling uncertain. But the dog advanced slowly, one step at a time, his actions careful and intentional. Then, to her astonishment, he sat directly in front of her, remaining watchful and protective. He didn't whine. He didn't make a sound. He simply remained. Maya's lips quivered. She looked at the animal, and for the first time in hours, the heavy weight in her chest lightened, if only by a fraction. "Are you lonely too?" she whispered. The dog blinked deliberately, his gaze fixed on hers. A fragile warmth she hadn't experienced in what felt like an eternity stirred within her. The quiet solace of no longer being alone. For the first time in what seemed like forever, someone had made the choice to stay. His silent presence offered a sense of security, as if perhaps they hadn't been entirely abandoned after all. Noah stirred, making a little noise, but remained asleep. Maya looked again at the dog. "Are you waiting with us?" she asked quietly. She didn't anticipate a reply, but somehow, in that calm, unwavering gaze, it felt as though she had received one. From her patrol car, Officer Elena Graves drank tepid coffee and gazed out through the rain-streaked windshield. Her shift was nearly finished. It was just another chilly, overcast afternoon in a city that never paused long enough to perceive the quiet things, like sorrow or small children sitting by themselves in the rain. She wasn't meant to be on this patrol route today. She had requested the change. Too many memories were attached to the old streets. Elena had been functioning on autopilot for months, ever since the accident. Her husband, her daughter, a drunk driver. A single wrong turn on a misty morning, and they were gone. The house that had once been filled with laughter now only echoed with silence. So she immersed herself in her job. Day shifts, night shifts, any shifts available. It was more manageable to safeguard strangers than to be still with her own grief. She was surveying the sidewalks when her attention was caught by a peculiar sight. A little girl at the bus stop, soaked through, holding a baby wrapped in a blanket, and next to her, a dog, a large German shepherd, sitting alert and motionless like a statue. Elena squinted. There was something in the girl's posture, so still, so weary, so achingly small, something in the way she protected her baby brother, as if the world were trying to take him as well. For a brief second, Elena saw her own daughter there. The same small build, the same messy hair, the same look of being lost. That invisible thread of connection tugged at something profound within her. She pulled the car over and got out, raising her hood over her short, dark hair. As she came closer, she moved at a slow, deliberate pace, not wanting to alarm the children or the animal. "Hey there, sweetheart," she said softly, squatting a few feet from them. "Are you okay?" The girl recoiled slightly, holding the baby tighter. At that moment, the dog got to his feet. He remained silent but stepped forward, positioning himself between the girl and Elena. His posture was firm and steady, his eyes fixed on Elena. A low growl rumbled in his throat, not as a threat, but as a protective warning. Elena stopped short. There was something about that stance, that face, that presence. She recognized this dog. Elena stayed still. So did the dog. They simply looked at each other, rain dripping from their clothes and fur, time suspended between them like a held breath in the cold air. Then she made the connection. The powerful build, the unwavering posture, the intelligent eyes that never looked away. "Max," she whispered. The dog's ears twitched ever so slightly, but it was enough. Elena felt a sharp pang in her heart. She took a tentative step forward. "Max, is that you?" She recalled the notice from months ago, a retired therapy dog trained for pediatric units, comforting children through chemotherapy or trauma recovery. He had belonged to Dr. Langford, a kind man who had died suddenly of a heart attack. After the service, Max had vanished. No one had been able to locate him. Some speculated he had run away in his grief. Others thought he was searching for something or someone. And now, here he was, guarding a little girl and her infant brother in the rain as if he knew they were in need of him. Maya looked from Elena to the dog and back again. "You know him?" she asked quietly. "I believe so," Elena answered, crouching down once more. "His name is Max." The dog did not move, but his body seemed to relax slightly. The growl subsided. "He found us," Maya said in a low voice, when nobody else did. Something inside Elena's chest fractured. She looked at the sodden child before her, brave, worn out, yet still fighting to shield the tiny bundle she held. Elena cleared her throat gently. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Maya," the girl whispered. "Okay, Maya," she said, her tone calm. "Let's get you and your brother somewhere dry." Elena opened the rear door of her cruiser and helped Maya climb inside, who held Noah tightly against her. Max followed without any prompting, jumping in beside them and settling down as if he had always been a member of their family. The journey to the station was silent. Maya said nothing. Elena did not speak either. Only the soft drone of the engine and Noah's quiet, sleeping breaths occupied the car. Inside the precinct, the fluorescent lights hummed gently as warmth enveloped them. Elena produced a thick towel, wrapping it softly around Maya's shoulders. Another officer fetched a clean blanket and a bottle of warmed formula from the small break room refrigerator. Maya was hesitant at first, but when she saw Elena check the bottle's temperature on her wrist and offer it with kindness rather than force, she took it. Noah accepted the bottle readily, his tiny hands gripping it. Max sat next to them, still, his gaze fixed on the door like a silent sentinel still on watch. When social services showed up, Elena went outside to speak with them. Their conversation was in low, professional, and routine tones. Elena stood listening quietly, and then an internal wall gave way. A stillness in her chest broke apart, releasing a torrent of grief, anger, and recognition. Her vision became blurry. She blinked away the tears quickly, hoping the social worker hadn't seen. But she could not dismiss the feeling. It was raw, maternal, and aching. "I'll take them," she said, "just until we find someone who can give them what they need." The worker appeared skeptical. "You're not obligated." "I know," Elena interrupted gently. "But I want to." Her apartment was compact but tidy. A space that had once felt like a hollow, echoing chamber now held a flicker of something new. Possibility. She located extra clothes, old blankets, and even a stuffed toy from a long-forgotten box in a closet. Maya stood in the living room, quietly holding Noah, while Max curled up at her feet. "It's quiet," she whispered. Elena managed a faint smile as she offered her a warm mug of cocoa. "That's because it's missing something." Maya looked up. "Like what?" Elena paused. "Laughter, life, and maybe someone to care for." The initial days were quiet, but not in the lonesome way Elena had become accustomed to. It was a different kind of quiet, tentative and fragile, like the moment before a piece of music starts. Maya spoke infrequently. She stayed close to Noah, observing Elena with wary eyes. At night, Elena could hear her whimpering through the thin bedroom wall, her sobs stifled by the ingrained need to remain unseen. But Elena knew those kinds of sobs. She didn't push Maya with questions. She provided warmth instead. Little gestures that felt ordinary. A grilled cheese sandwich sliced into triangles. A towel still warm from the dryer. A softly spoken goodnight. Noah was the first to respond, grasping for Elena's finger and giggling at her funny faces. Maya's defenses softened more gradually. Max was a great help. The dog was always by her side. He slept near her bed, followed her from room to room, and rested his head in her lap when the bad dreams came back. He was patient, silent, and steadfast. One evening, Elena was making pancakes. She fumbled with the spatula, and batter flew onto her shirt. Maya let out a quick, surprised laugh, as if it had escaped her unintentionally. Elena stopped and smiled. That night, as she tucked Maya in and looked over Noah's crib, she no longer felt like someone helping from a sense of duty. She felt like a mother again. Maya sensed it as well. Although the sensation was difficult to put into words, it was undeniable. She felt secure, embraced, chosen, as if the universe had somehow granted her and Noah a second mother. One who was quiet, constant, and kind. And for the first time in a very long time, she understood that this wasn't merely a place. It was home. One quiet morning, after seeing Maya gently rock Noah back to sleep, Elena began filling out the paperwork. She felt no hesitation. She signed each form with hands that shook, not with uncertainty, but with hope. She had officially submitted her application for their adoption. A few weeks later, the letter came. It was from the state. Elena sat at her kitchen table, her heart racing. When she read the words, her hand flew to her mouth. The tears streamed down her face, grief, happiness, and relief all mixed together. The guardianship was no longer a temporary arrangement. Maya and Noah were officially her children. Max, picking up on the emotion, let out a soft bark and trotted in circles around the table. Maya watched Elena, then rushed into her arms. She didn't say much, just a soft, breathless whisper. "I used to think no one would ever want us." Elena held her closer. "I didn't think I'd ever be a mom again." No more words were necessary. That night, Maya helped Elena put Noah to bed in his crib. Max curled up by the door as usual, his watch never ending. The apartment, once still and vacant, now hummed with quiet vitality. Because there are times when a family is not inherited but discovered through fractured hearts, courageous decisions, and the silent devotion of a dog who just knew where he was needed. And sometimes, the smallest act of kindness is the very thing that saves a life.